Severance Season 2 Episode 5 has mystery men, new diet plans, performance reviews, Audi love, and of course, melon heads.
Big juicy melon!
Hi, I'm Jared B, JBuck's innie. Back from whatever the heck that Ortbo shenanigans was last week, I filed multiple complaints, all ignored. Anyway, thank you so much for clicking this. I am on my way to Refiner of the Quarter, so let's just get into Severance Episode 5. Kicking things off, enter the mysterious man Felicia mentioned back in Episode 3.
But now, they send a guy.
What I love about Severance is this opening 2 minutes could be a 25-minute breakdown just in of itself. Everything about it is mysterious and important as this man, who the subtitles refer to as Doctor, wheels a cart to O&D to pick up what looks like dental instruments. Side note, it is mentioned that Keir spent some time in his 20s serving as a military doctor. Anyway, this could be tied in with the smile wall from Season 1, which is actually pictures of the cast and crew because they filmed Season 1 during COVID, and that was a way to see their beautiful smiles. The more you know. As he's wheeling in the cart, we see various perks, erasers and pens, purposely colored blue and red, symbolizing our innies and outies, and some of the bad soap casually brought up in Season 1. The thing that's weird about this dude is that he wears a severed person's watch and then has an all-access black security card, meaning that he's got some leverage either on this floor or the testing floor where he ends his journey. The thing that doesn't sit well with me is his hair. If you look really closely between the shelves, his hair looks fake, almost like the Perpetuity Wing wax figures. When he's walking back, he definitely is like twitching around, almost like a clicker or I guess like James Egan in Episode 2. At this point, it is anyone's guess who this mofo is, but I have a scary feeling that they're doing facial reconstruction surgery to make people literally in Keir's image.
Shut up!
I know this would be a huge jump the shark moment, but this dude's face don't look right. Why the dental tools? While doing this, he whistles the tune of Gordon Lightfoot's song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Truly a vibe. The song was released in 1976, the same year Gerhard Egan took over as Lumen CEO, as it is essentially a memorial to the sinking of the bulk carrier SS Edmund Fitzgerald in Lake Superior on November 10th, 1975.
The Fitzgerald is one of the champions of the waters. She sets records for the heaviest load.
Nice.
So right off the bat, we have a connection to the Great Lakes, which I'm saying is the painting of Keir inviting you to drink of his water, and later Bert mentions a weekend getaway to Milwaukee, which is right across to Lake Michigan, located on the edge of Wisconsin. Severance is set in Michigan, that's where Keir is, or at least an overwhelming amount of evidence points to this. So thumbs up for nailing down a location. Reeling things back to the SS Edmund Fitzgerald, this ship had unfortunately sunk to the bottom of Lake Superior after hauling roughly 25,000 tons of low-grade iron ore or taconite if you want to be specific. The reason for the sinking was because of a nasty November storm producing hurricane-strength winds and theorizing that there was 30-foot waves sinking the ship, cargo, 29-person crew, all of it. This is where the interesting bit of all of this comes in. None of the 29 crew members were found. A bit strange, and even after various books, studies, and expeditions, no one really figured out the cause of the sinking. Some speculate that it's as simple as poor leadership, while others go as far as alien abductions. Severance is no stranger to taking in real-life events, mysteries, even conspiracies, and subtly weaving them into their series. For example, we went deep on the Montauk Project and Montauk Monster last week. What I think is that it's either a clue to Lumen's corporate espionage, something that was initially mentioned in the Lexington Letter short story, and again comes up in Ricken's The UUR book, which I will touch on later in this video. On the flip side, with no bodies being recovered, potentially Lumen swooped in, snatched them up, and then reprogram on this so-called mysterious testing room floor. We learned later that Lumen has been swapping out people with random bodies from the morgue, i.e. Gemma from her car accident, so this feels totally reasonable. Jumping over to Mark, who now has Ragabi living in his house, living in his basement, so sleepovers, baby! Before Ragabi enters, Mark tells Devin, hinting that the Ortbo was in fact a working weekend at Lumen, a Saturday and Sunday, as Mark takes a handful of pills to help with his reintegration. These pills are a combo of a generic penicillin and bacterial prevention, skin infections for the head incision, and painkillers. Later, the weird applesauce and jizz-looking drink, that's what it looks like to me, is more than likely sea moss gel, used for various health reasons. The most common is general immunity system boosting. These both make a cameo in the new season 2 intro. Later, Mark finds Ragabi going through some of Gemma's old personal items to help with the reintegration process. So in theory, deep-rooted memories of potentially loved ones will help shake up the severance/reintegration process. This of course makes sense because Miss Cobell used Gemma's candle back in season 1 to see if it would jog Mark's memories at all. I believe Cobell, though, was doing this for her own personal reasons, of which maybe later we will find out. Through Mark and Ragabi's conversation, some small details are revealed like,
sorry there wasn't any eggnog. Might be out of season.
Meaning the holidays have passed and it's potentially the end of January, start of February, because Milchick does have a review after a month of being department manager. The bigger clue is Gemma's cremated remains. Some had theorized that Lumen was scooping scoring some of these permanently severed individuals, and it's pretty much confirmed that yes, that is what is happening at this point, with Ragabi saying,
They know people at the morgue.
As viewers, it is safe to assume that anyone and everyone in Kier is on Lumen's payroll at this point. It's interesting that right when Mark says,
I'm not sure it's science period, but okay,
his reintegration kicks back in. It's more of a religion, or I guess a mix between science and religion depending on your point of view, as right after this he hears Gemma's voice going over some hilarious wellness check facts about who we can assume is Mark's outie. Paying your bills within 3 days feels like such a control tactic, like following the straight and narrow, as we know Lumen is in the business of control, avoiding chaos. The last fact about catching a butterfly could infer Mark himself has gone through a metamorphosis. His outie is forever changed by these visions of Gemma standing right there in front of him. As it ends with Gemma saying,
Your outie is going to be...
Cutting the last bit off. This is wild speculation, but I wonder if it's either save the world or die. I really have no evidence to back this up, just those are the two extremes that came to my mind when this scene cut. So let me know in the comments what you believe Gemma was actually about to say at this moment. One of the themes that I picked up in this episode is even the characters not severed, not physically severed, have had to sever themselves from parts of who they are to rather fit into the mold of what Lumen desires. Helena being a pawn for the board, Milchick sacrificing his blackness identity, and Rickon later caving to the riches of Lumen while giving up journalistic integrity. Starting with Helena, she's basically screwed. No freedom of her own, stuck in the middle, unsure really what to do. As it's reinforced, the Ortbo took place over the weekend, and her tempers will rebalance quickly. Obviously from the drowning trauma, but I'm curious if Kier's balance of the four tempers is essentially causing yourself to have no joys or sorrows in life, rather be this mundane blank slate to enjoy whatever Kier's future goals are. If this is the case, Helena is going to go rogue, no doubt, especially seeing how her innie is enjoying the fruits of life way more than she is. In reality, Helena might be the prisoner, not Heliar. Arriving on the severed floor, you instantly know that this is Heli, which is so funny to look back the whole Helena or Heli debate for the first 4 episodes. Heli has way more of an attitude.
Who the fuck are you?
Not to mention her iconic walk is way more pronounced than season 1's. I know I'm maybe reaching right now, but the framing of Miss Hong and Heli R resembles the two hemispheres of a person's brain, left being more analytical, with Miss Wong's black and white clothing, as the right side is more creativity-based with Heli's vibrant blues and red hair. Side note, the new musical score throwing in some dark sci-fi dread is a huge, awesome, much appreciated twist on just the mood of these scenes. Anyway, it's really just a catch-up game for Heli this episode, being filled in on what she missed, Miss Casey being Mark's wife, and dealing with the weirdness of whatever happened between Mark, the MDR team, and Helena the last few days or potentially weeks. Another reason Severance is top-tier television is every frame is crafted so meticulously, with Mark metaphorically being trapped between Heli and Helena. where later when face to face with Helly, Mark is purposely clouded in view to show that his judgment is like in a weird gray area. He doesn't know what to believe, in addition to him very much being a huge dick to Helly. Milchick, on the other hand, is dealing with a lot. From a workplace satire, this is what I assume being a manager is like. Loud noises! As he tries to calm down the situation with the story of Grupin. For the most part, the telling of this story is correct. Charles XI of Sweden would wear a Grupin or gray coat around the country, spying on common folk, seeing their grievances firsthand. But one of the main reasons was weeding out corruption. This is exactly what Helena was doing, and I assume Keir Egan himself back in the ether mill. Be undercover and find out what was said or done during the OTC. I have a feeling that this is a much bigger issue to Lumen than us as viewers who have actually seen how these events played out. Plus, with Milchick framed in black and white with the profile mirroring that of Keir Egan, I think the Grupin legend goes a step further, and any of the Lumen employees who have those little like raindrop pins are able to be flipped on for the board or Keir Egan to use as a viewing vessel. I mean, look at Natalie during Milchick's review. You cannot tell me someone's not behind those peepers watching the show. Milchick's review is maybe my favorite part of this episode. First, having the courage to bring up the paintings again to Natalie shows that he's very much in conflict with some of Keir's vision, specifically his blackness. Unfortunately, it looks like to be a team player like Natalie, who's doing her best ducky, he's having to sacrifice his personal identity part of it. Now, I personally cannot speak on this matter, but I can only imagine this is a common workplace situation many people of different cultures, genders, and so forth have to deal with in the corporate setting. His actual review is tongue-in-cheek corporate satire bullshit to a T. The paperclip nonsense, big words, and Drummond reading everything in his performance review almost verbatim from the pages later.
Here is the lunch menu.
Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
You would be shocked how often this actually happened in my performance reviews, and the fact that I'd have to handhold executives making 10 times what I did. Milchick is kind deep down, implementing these new kindness reforms, explaining the new break room, perks, unlimited snacks. Even the team building retreat that was no doubt in the team building area on PD's map. However, at this point, I don't know if Milchick is going to go full heel or he's going to be like this unlikely hero for our MDR pals. The new workplace is depressing, with Irving cast out and literally erased from the MDR team. I'm curious if this is showing how like Woe was tamed and now it's like the hunt for the next 3 Tempers. If so, I'm saying Dylan is Malice because of his outie wife visits, Helly being Dread, fear of Helena and the Egans, and Mark ultimately being Frolic, potentially reuniting with Gemma, but again, that's all of theory. As we see Mark flip through a half-dozen file names that we actually haven't seen before. These file names potentially relate to battles of the American Civil War, to settlements Lewis and Clark ventured through, to names of key military figures in history, to the Chicxulub asteroid, the big ol' space rock that caused the dinosaurs to go bye-bye. With Mark's history knowledge and these files seemingly pulling from historical events, maybe this is why he's special. I mean, history lives in us without us knowing, apparently. Mark has more reintegration visions at work, quickly seeing his morning pills on his desk, and then giving Milchick some serious sarcasm. It's all but confirmed that Severance's purpose is control, and Mark is slowly drifting from that structured, perfect, buttoned-up employee that companies would kill for. It's nice that Irving gets a funeral for his former MDR pals to attend, but also very strange that Milchick is ready to go with bugs, supplies, other things for a workplace bereavement. Small details in this prep scene mention Irving had an affections index of the high 60s. This feels very video gamey like The Sims, so I'm curious what other stats are tracked by Lumen, along with Miss Wong seriously threatening Milchick about his upcoming review. Part of me thinks that she's like the daughter to someone really powerful on the outside, like a rich, spoiled kid. According to the LinkedIn, Lumen's official LinkedIn, we know that she's a Wintertide Fellow, whatever the heck that is. Either way, if I were Milchick, I would yeet her out of there. Irving's funeral starts with an 8-bit version of Frédéric Chopin's Piano Sonata Funeral March, as Irving is memorialized in a video game rendering like that of the 100% file completion screen back in Season 1. As we learn, Irving did in fact work in MDR for roughly 3 years, from quarters 870 to 882. The thing that does not track are these quarters. Theoretically, if Lumen has been operating for 882 quarters, that would mean that they've been operating for roughly 220 and a half years, putting it at a starting point of roughly 1804 to 1805. We know Keir Egan was born in 1841 and started Lumen when he was roughly 24 in 1865, the year the American Civil War ended. So what the heck is going on here? I did find it interesting, though, that 1805 was when the Michigan Territory was created, as we can 99% assume that Severance takes place in Michigan. But other than that, nothing. So is time dilation happening on the severed floor? Is the entirety of the Keir religion and lore all made up? Or is there something much bigger happening here that I'm clearly missing? Please let me know about these quarters or your theory on these in the comments. Each MDR member grabs an Irving mug first showing up in the Season 2 intro as they take 9 seconds of silence honoring the 9 Lumen core principles. Dylan gives a very cute eulogy in honor of Irving, as it's the quickest funeral ever, and then they are treated to a melon party featuring Irving's head made of a Malaysian black beauty watermelon. This may tie to racial stereotypes originated in the 1800s, another reference to Lumen's alleged enslavement of workers. The song playing in the background is Robert Mitchum's Coconut Water, with the lyrics talking about drinking the water. We know Lumen is very water adjacent, and this could be a twist on the whole drink the Kool-Aid, drink whatever Lumen is serving, they want to control you. Dylan throughout this is seen eating Irving's left ear, and I see this as kind of a dual meaning. First, the phrase, lend me your ear, as in pay close attention to what I am saying, as we discover the hang in there from last week was a coded message to Dylan, learning the directions to the export elevator were hidden behind the hang in there poster. Truly, these directions are kooky, and I'll list them out here. I tried to map this myself with the help of PD and Bert's maps, but came up empty. Let me know if I'm missing something or if there's like a hidden meaning in these directions. The other ear symbolism is Mike Tyson. Just kidding, it's a nod to Vincent Van Gogh, famous oil painter of the mid to late 1800s, who famously cut off his own left ear in a fit of rage, alcoholism, and what historians later assumed was a bipolar personality disorder. However, it is theorized that fellow artist Paul Gauguin was the one that cut off his ear with a sword after the two got into a heated debate. Either way, this moment was memorialized in Vincent Van Gogh's painting, Self-Portrait with Bandaged Ear, recounting the aftermath and symbolizing his artistic power and personal struggles. Nonetheless, this all ties back in with Irving because he is an oil painter and having a violent altercation with a coworker back in episode 4. This could allude to Irving having some sort of mental disorder, potentially being bipolar or suffering from dementia. I mean, he is a lot different than we're used to in episode 4, but I'll admit that that is a stretch. His isolation and elevator paintings, though, symbolize Irving's own personal struggles, much like that of Vincent Van Gogh. Ricken's moral dilemma is now writing a new handbook for Lumen that is totally going against his teachings, his previous writings, like Devin says.
Your so-called boss may own the clock that taunts you from the wall, but my
friends, the hour is yours.
Your sovereign boss may own the clock that greets you from the wall, but you get to enjoy its ticking and thus should be happy.
I find this so relatable because remember, this is a corporate workplace satire drama, and like any creative, you want to make your thing. You want your style, your thing or whatever, but honestly, money is sometimes an issue. So Ricken is caving to his own moral compass in order to fund his other endeavors, which in reality is probably going to do so much more harm than he actually realizes. His original version of the UUR was already a Trojan horse the way it was, sneaking these anti-the man words to the severed floor. That should and still could spark a revolution. Now with Ricken referring to it as a Trojan's horse, he's essentially doing the opposite, or maybe I'm reading way too much into that. while we're here, I want to talk about Rickon because I listened to the UUR audiobook over the weekend and it is great. A big recommend for Severance fans as it's even more Severance content while adding some details to the world and depth to Rickon's character. Learning that his parents were an experimental performance duo called Hump Dumpster, Rickon was much more close to Gemma than Mark as she listened to Rickon and really enjoyed deeper discussions with him. He goes on to say that the reason Devin and he moved to the woods was because of the Dorner truck explosion, explicitly mentioned in the Lexington letter. One of the smaller mysteries is when is Severance actually set? Like, what year? And these events in the book paint it to be roughly present day, with the truck explosion happening roughly 4 years before the start of season 1. So again, the more you know. He also goes on a big long tear about bees, workers, queens, and wasps, and how they relate to the otherwise corporate world, the structure and hierarchy of it all, with there being many more workers than those that hold the power. I bring this up because there has been a suspicious amount of bee-related imagery. The bee poster in the new break room, beehive severance chip function, and the beehive pattern on Kier's slippers. There's a theory that the world is suffering actually from a nuclear winter, and bees have gone extinct, meaning that a lot of products and wildlife have ceased to exist, but I just don't know about that one right now.
Not the bees!
Audie Irving is alive and well, but unfortunately still the lonely man we briefly saw in season 1. He makes another anonymous phone call via the payphone in episode 2, with the leading theory being that of Ragabi on the other side of the line. It would make sense because people have theorized that he is slowly reintegrating. Rather, I wonder if it's actually some sort of undercover government agency dude, and he had been trained to purposely focus his mind on the severed floor, with the leading theory being his constant coffee drinking leading to sleep deprivation. More is going on with him, and I hope we find out more about him because he might be my favorite character right now. He does have a nice reunion with Bert as we discover Bert's retirement was actually a firing because of a romantic entanglement with another coworker, that being Irving. I want to trust Bert, but with this episode kind of showing each of our characters in the dark having cloudy judgment with the obstacles they are dealing with, I wonder if something bad is going to happen to Irving. A buddy of mine suggested that the reason Bert's name was on Irving's map in season 1 was because Bert is a person of interest in a different way than romantically. And the devious "I know where you live" implies this.
I know where you live.
Who knows, maybe Bert and this Fields fella want to have a throuple and take Irv to Paris for an Eiffel Tower.
Hey, yo!
Either way, we're teed up for a nice dinner party in future episodes full of red wine, which has really made an appearance more than expected, potentially symbolizing the blood of Christ, the blood of Kier, or again, we're digging far too deep on things. And that is it, another breakdown in the books. I'd like to thank everyone so much for watching these videos. Audi JBuck says, I am doing a great job down here on the severed floor. I haven't gotten a perk in a couple weeks, so who knows what next week's gonna bring. Anyway, feel free to drop all of your thoughts, feelings, theories, and out there ideas on Severance Season 2, Episode 5, and I'll be sure to see everyone next week for our Episode 6 breakdown. And maybe, just maybe, I'll get another delicious perk with everyone's help. Okay, bye-bye, everyone!